You're not dreaming. You're watching episode 5 of the Ghouligans. I'm still Mr. Lobo. We're enjoying a Ghouligans marathon. We haven't talked much about the theme music. It was created by Paul T. Lano. I hope I'm saying that last name right. And this is sort of a surf rock rendition of the theme. The surf culture likes its monsters, so that seems appropriate. And again, this last shot's always different. The Slack Pack, I don't know if it's in reference to the 60s Rat Pack, as I mentioned before. It might even be reference to the 80s Brat Pack, which I believe was Rob Lowe and Emilio Estevez, and who else was in there? Ali Sheedy, and I can't remember who else. Was Molly Ringwald in the Brat Pack? I don't know. Everyone who was in St. Elmo's Fire was in the Brat Pack. Teen films were very popular in the 80s, so perhaps, again, they could be referencing Dean and Sammy and Frank from the 60s or the 80s or the Drac Pack cartoon, but or the Slack Pack. That's also again Church of the Subgenius. Slack is kind of their version of the Force or Chi in that religion. You got to get slack. Bob gives you slack. You don't know anything about the Church of Subgenius? Check that out. It was it came out of it was very popular in the 80s. It featured a deity who was like a piece of advertising art of a 50s dad with a pipe, and he gave you slack. So something to look into if you like joke religions. Now, this remote control premise. There was a movie with John Ritter and Pam Dauber. I believe it was in the late 80s, called Stay Tuned. And the premise of that movie is that they had a remote control that sort of popped them into different dimensions, and they were stuck in all these crazy TV shows inside of the TV. So that's kind of what's happening here, where they're kind of emulating the premise of the movie Stay Tuned, which is not that original of a premise. This is something they probably would have done in a cartoon show, for sure. Now, at this point in the show, I remember the first time we watched this episode, my wife Dixie and I, she leaned over to me and she said, "Quantum leap references will get you everywhere." And in this particular case, it did with Dixie. That won her over. This is interesting because this is hearkening back to the 50s version of the Ghouligans, although now we're seeing all these shots in color.
But only one thing. Human flesh. They are the walking dead, a curse on mankind. They are the Ghouligans.
They're coming. They're here. The screen has never
So instead of the 50s version, this is more like a 70s or 80s exploitation version of the same trailer. The popped collar and the sunglasses. That's your cue that this is the 80s. Punk rockers.
horrifying creatures beyond your worst nightmares.
Automatic writing, that was big in the 80s.
You're already dead, and you don't even know it!
Mullets were big in the 80s. That's kind of a Italian horror movie move, pulling the brain out of the head. In Italy, they have these films called Giallo films, and
Rated R.
extremely violent. And that was a common move, the sort of sponge brain getting pulled out of the head.
I'm your host, the kookiest, spookiest, human freakadig, Wink Wilder.
This Wink Wilder character, I believe, is from their earlier Ghouligans days. I have not seen him before, but he is creepy looking. That is Sean Q. King as the talk show host, the midnight special host. There's his house band, kind of a parody of, I guess, a late night talk show.
The Phantom of Love. Some know him as the Angel of Music. Others know him as Eric. Please welcome the Phantom.
Oh boy. So we've got the return of Eric the Phantom. Again, you're not supposed to like this guy. And you don't.
Now is the winter of my talk show appearance. This is indeed an unparalleled delight. Hello.
This is the romantic version of the Phantom from the Andrew Lloyd Webber musical, not Lon Chaney's Phantom of the Opera from the 1925 film.
Why don't you tell us a little bit about your girlfriend, Christine? Okay, thanks for that, whatever that was.
Those look like the same contact lenses for Void, so Sean is getting double duty out of those expensive contact lenses with this character.
A toad, sir. Perhaps it is you who is the toad. How dare you insult me?
How dare me? How dare you? Why are you ashamed to be a freak? The public wants to know.
I am a man. And I'm here to discuss my...
This is almost turning into a Jerry
Okay,
Springer
okay, let's
kind of
take a
thing.
look at your latest project. It's a reality series. How original. We do have a clip. Boris, roll it.
Boris, roll it.
This is, of course, a spoof of modern reality shows like The Bachelor or The Bachelorette.
It must be hard always having to hide from people. He seems to only show half of his true self, but I know there is something beautiful behind that mask. So have you ever been in a serious relationship before? It's okay to get emotional.
Oh, no, I wasn't crying. There's just pus leaking from the infection on my face. There was this one girl. I kidnapped her and kept her hostage in the sewers of the Paris Opera House. I attempted to get her to marry me against her will. But I've grown up a lot since then.
I heard he's really into opera.
This character definitely represents the hammy, corny humor on this show.
But secretly yearns for heaven. Secretly, but Christine,
It's 3 o'clock in the morning, Eric. We need our beauty rests, which obviously you know nothing about.
Oh, Christine.
Again, it's self-aware.
Who the is Christine?
He's always monologuing.
The white mask on one side of his face doesn't freak me out. I just think there's something really creepy about a guy in a cape.
Again, a parody of The Bachelorette, which I think was on ABC. He would give a rose to the, I guess, winning,
Where the hell's all my underwear?
or the Bachelor, I guess, would give a rose to the winning, whatever.
I am searching for
I hate reality shows, so I'm not an expert in reality shows. I think most people who love fantasy and horror movies, and fantasy and fun and television programs with creativity and writing have a loathing for reality shows. And I think that their feelings about reality shows are pretty clear in that sketch.
But it's curtains for you.
Why is that button pushing?
You don't
What's going
see?
You know, you just never ever. He's got a bigger mask now. You know, you don't like this guy. Again, you're not supposed to like him, and everyone doesn't. So, hey, bravo.
Pop creature superstar from Monster Movie Land, the star of such films as The Godfather, Scarfish, and Fishing Impossible.
This is kind of a reoccurring gag where Krill Grill is always doing different roles. I guess Krill Grill is an actor. His character must be an actor because we're always seeing him in different feature films, emulating different styles of feature films and trailers. Of course, we saw the Scarface or Scarfish trailer, and now we're going to go into his latest project.
Okay, slow down. You know the rules here on the Midnight Special. You have to pay to play, okay? We do have a clip of your brand new movie, and we will show it if you agree to perform one stunt. What stunt? The electric chair!
I love this robot. Again, the classic cardboard box robot. Very time-honored B-movie tradition.
Whoa, man, you ghouls are crazy. I ain't no guppy, though. I'll do it. I love it. I'll do it.
Holy mackerel, he's gonna do it. Okay, stay tuned. We'll have more with Krill Gill here on the Midnight Special. Stay tuned.
All right, so Krill Grill, ladies and gentlemen, as Pac-Man now.
The show's out of control. I think I'm gonna be sick.
Guys, we're back. I think we made it.
I feel funny, man. I feel like I'm tripping.
I must be having an out-of-body experience.
This is also a common trope in which they did on the Munsters and a lot of other sitcoms, where everyone is speaking with each other's voice, where they've swapped brains or swapped bodies.
I can't hear you, man. Speaking to my good ear.
Hey, it ain't me. It's this thing here.
This may not be so bad. What does this thing do?
Again, they're still bouncing from different television shows, following the premise of the movie. Stay tuned.
Welcome to Blood and Guts Cooking with Boris. I'm your host, Boris. Today, we are preparing a recipe from...
This seems like a parody of a public access cooking show.
Now, our tomatoes have been cooking all day long, so it's time to add the garlic, salt, and pepper. And instead of oil, I like to use the grease from the hair. And remember, as always, when cooking, it is important to use a reanimated brain.
Oh, che cosa fai? Mi vuoi bruciare? Che cosa la tua problema?
Now the hard part. When cooking an authentic Italian head sauce, it is important to get the head angry. When the Italian blood boils, it brings out all of the flavor.
Dove sono le polpette? Come puoi fare la salsa senza le polpette? La mia mamma sempre fa la salsa con le polpette.
Your mama was a cerella, polpette!
Come puoi parlare di mia mamma così? Diavolo verde, maiale elettrico, tu! Ti ammazzo il maiale!
Green Devil Electric Pig.
Ti mangio la mano, eh? Ti mangio! Dammi la mano! Dammi la mano! Ti mangio vivo!
This kind of reminds me of The Brain That Wouldn't Die, where you've got the gag of the person putting their head through a hole in the table to make it seem like a decapitated head.
Perfect! And now we wait for the boil.
mamma ti viene a ammazzare! Il mio corpo!
Next week on Blood and Guts Cooking with Boris.
Also kind of reminds me of the Sick and Twisted animation festivals where they had God, what was that character? Bruno? I wish I could remember, but it was a angry swearing chef that would cut parts of his body off. This, of course, is showing their MTV influences again. This is a parody of the music video. George Michael, Faith is the name of the track. And if you've ever seen that music video, this is a pretty good imitation of that music video. It's, I guess George Michael was feeling like it was returning to the roots of rock and roll, real simple leather jacket, playing a guitar. It was goofy and pretentious then, and it's goofy and pretentious now. You know, again, a good parody of George Michael's video, but I don't know how relevant it is to make fun of that now, especially since it kind of wears out its welcome pretty quick. Did make me laugh the first time I saw it, but it does wear out its welcome. I think you probably could have, once you got to the punchline verse, probably could have ducked out of it, but you know, they've got a whole show to fill, so, and you know, they already had all this set up. Might as well take it all the way. Yes, it's still happening. But we love Wolfgang, Peter Bune. We still love him.
Darling, whatever is the matter?
Well, dear, we're not
This
gonna
guy
wait any
again.
longer. It's time we start thinking about our afterlife.
Afterlife? Why would we need to think about that?
It's important to me that we spend eternity together. But how?
This seems to be their go-to guy for cheesy commercials.
Would you like to pass into the afterlife?
And here's Bob the Builder returning again. As I mentioned originally, Bob Tutankhamun, Bob the Builder, reference to the early 2000s, late 90s kids show on Nick Jr. and PBS. And then this particular cultural reference is like a late night television commercial, locally produced TV commercial for a contractor.
I love you forever.
If long-time preservation is a must, come on down to Bob Tutankhamun's Pyramid Emporium, where all signs point to savings. And remember, you can take it all with you.
Again, emulating local TV programming, local TV commercials.
And he's just accepted the electric chair challenge. How do you feel, Gil?
I feel good, Wink. Let's get cooking.
Okay, the deal is...
This is kind of again emulating the 80s and 90s sort of extreme television shows where they make the audience members do outrageous stunts.
Okay, crew, while you broil there, we're gonna take a look at a clip from your latest movie, Fry Hard. Boris, roll that clip.
Lieutenant Gil McLean was just a cop trying to get home to his wife for the holidays.
Now this is another feature film trailer, a parody of a feature film trailer.
Oh, Santa can swim. Instead, he's going to have to save her.
But now it's Bruce Willis,
So brutal they
Die
can't
Hard.
stop.
We are here for the
But now it's
plankton in your boat.
Krill Grill in Fry Hard. Again, they paid attention to the original style, the original film. If you notice, a lot of
hate to break up the
light
party,
sources
but we are taking you all
pointed at the
hostage.
camera.
I'm Hans Gruber, and I trust you will treat me with respect. Otherwise, you will die.
Now, the last thing McClane wants is to be a hero. But he doesn't have a choice.
Who are you? You are most troublesome for a security guard.
Wrong guess, Hans. Looks like you're swimming in high tide.
He's an easy man to like.
I feel like he's doing Dennis Leary again, more so than Bruce Willis.
What does he think he's doing?
So now we've got the creature of the Black Lagoon, Beach Bum, as Bruce Willis. Bruce Willis in Die Hard.
Chance against us, Mr. Cowboy.
Yippee-ki-yay, monster fish man.
Grill Gil.
Come out to the shore. Have a few laughs. Bite a
Very
few
ambitious,
hooks.
again, showing their talent both in the sketch comedy area and in the cinematic area. And now, of course, he's fried.
Well, I have to say you've been the most delicious guest we've ever had here on the show. Thanks for stopping by. And thanks for watching the Midnight Special. Take care.
This, of course, is a parody of the Brady Bunch. The open of the Brady Bunch.
Guys, I just got a letter from my rich uncle. He's dead, but he left me a mansion.
Sitcom from the early 70s.
And he left me a butler.
Butler?
Yeah.
Well, what are we waiting for, ghouls?
Now this here, I guess, is the last thing that they filmed for this mini-series.
This is it. The good life.
Them getting the letter saying that they inherited a butler. This is like a parody of an 80s sitcom.
Ah, very good, sir. I'm your humble servant, Heathsworth. I've been expecting you, Master Wolfgang. Please, let me help you with your package.
Whoa. Are you okay, Heathsworth? Are you sick or something?
Sir, whatever do you mean? Master Void, please.
The gross out humor also is reminding me a lot of something that they might do in Monty Python.
Oh, great. Please, show her in.
Meaning of life.
Oh, wait, Heathsworth.
Wolfgang, we are through.
But of course the major parody is the television sitcom where you've got a gimmicky character that all the gags come from. Saturday Night Live sketch that goes on too long would probably have a premise like this. So it's comedy making fun of comedy.
Until you puke. Heathsworth, throwing up this fall on the Transylvania Television Network.
Whoa, that was incredible-licious.
I actually think that's one of their tighter commercial parodies. Gets to the point and gets out.
No, wait, I think we're back. I think we're back. I think it's over.
Yeah?
Where's that remote? To find that thing and destroy it before it falls into the wrong hands.
Yeah, great timing, Boris. The show's over. What good is that gonna do us now?
Guys, check it out. I think we're on TV. Hi.
No. Oh no.
Hello.
We're still stuck in the show. Why won't it end?
Hey, you guys, look, it's Fleming. Hey, Count Fleming, down here.
Hey, Fleming, check it out. We're TV
This is very meta
Hey,
TV show, characters stuck in a TV show.
Hey, man, who turned out the light?
Fleming, you scoundrel, double-crossing bloodsucker.
Home sweet home.
Nicely done, boys. Another great episode. Again, I think that they are finding their own here. I think each episode is a little tighter. Great work, Paul T. Lano, on the theme song. I'm sorry that we didn't talk about the theme song before, but it's very catchy. And the fact that it doesn't have lyrics, I think, helps it, because you just never get tired of it. It's just toe tapping and fun, and pushes the most important thing. They're the Ghouligans. We've got one last episode to go. Please join Mr. Lobo as I suck the life out of one more episode.